Hey everybody, Merry Christmas to you. On this very special episode, and by popular demand, I'm going to tell you all about the Gray Ghost. What color is this? What is so special about the paint on this car? What very famous race car driver insisted I use his steering wheel? The hidden stereo system, and how I used a vibrating dildo to paint the wheels on this car. Yes, I said that. So this is actually my first vlog for the channel, and I thought, why not give you guys a cool little tour of the car and kind of tell you all about the build. This is a 1969 Porsche 911T. It was a email I got from a buddy of mine that said, hey, there's a car rotting away in a field. And in fact, I did an entire slideshow. If you guys look at my Impossible Porsche restoration, that's all about the first phase of this car. So you guys can see how it went from the rusty shitbox that it was to mostly the current state. It's been quite updated since maybe the last 4 or 5 years with some great wheels and some other stuff, interior. But anyway, I built this car. It took me about 4 years and 2,000 hours. I did it all myself. I did it on a very shoestring budget. I didn't have a lot of money at all. And the first very special thing about this is while I was building it, my parents passed away. So I had 4 years that I was working and they got sick. I would work in the garage. That was my solace. And I actually mixed their ashes into the primer. I used this really thick stuff called U-Pol. It was this really thick kind of brush-on primer, and we mixed their ashes into it. So I've turned down a lot of offers for this car because this is a car that never leaves the garage. Number two is, what color is this paint? It's by far the number one question I'm asked about this car, and it's gray. There's no factory color. This is a gray that I found in a catalog, and I really liked it. I did this car in 2008, 2007. So I like to think I was one of the first gray cars. Now they're very popular and very trendy. And, you know, I just always thought it was cool. I thought, why not, with the big wide hips and the yellow lights, keep the color kind of low key. In the real world, I'm a designer. I have a very popular podcast for entrepreneurs called the Solopreneur Hour, if you guys are on the entrepreneurial side. And I also have another one called Beginner Audiophile, which is just all about high-end audio. So design, though, as an aesthetic is really something that's important to me. And I really wanted kind of this cool low-key vibe, which is why I ghosted the Carrera graphics. I don't even know if you can see them on this. You can sort of see that it says Carrera here. It's supposed to be in black, but that's why the internet dubbed this car the Gray Ghost. So this is the Gray Ghost. I'll get into the wheels in a minute. But let's go through this thing a little bit, and I'll show you kind of what the story is. So not a lot of people were doing RSRs when I built this. This was a very kind of unique thing. There was only Jack Olson with Black Beauty. That was the only other kind of like public RSR that I could find. This thing just has beautiful curves. If you look here, one of the little iconic things is the logo. You'll notice the O is very different. That's actually the O of my podcast, the Solopreneur Hour. So that is the icon of that. And without that podcast, I would not have been able to do any of this stuff that I'm doing right now. The Targa, this is not a garage queen. This is a car that I race. It's a car that I autocross. It's a car that I take on multiple Targa events. All of these things are worth the very much patina. If I show you, see all that patina? That's from driving the heck out of this thing, and that's what it's there for. So that's all this stuff, and then a little secret club I'm in, which is the most epic Alpine Mountain Road Club International, and that's our little secret logo, but I can't tell you about that or I'll have to kill you. Anyway, this thing just has beautiful curves. It sounds great. It looks great. It feels great. I'm going to get into the wheels in a second. Let me show you guys really quickly under the hood. Here's this little piece I built. I actually have a video about building this little nice smoothing out kind of platform here in the trunk. This is a strut tower brace that a buddy of mine made, and then that is the classic retrofit electric air conditioning. Because of these Targa events, you know, riding for 15 hours a day for 4 days in really hot sun is not where you want to be. That is the pigeon poop wiring that will be eventually fixed in a future video. But I can't recommend enough, if you're a Porsche fan, getting this air conditioning unit from Classic Retrofit. Let's move on to the interior. I did every single thing on this interior. I hand cut every piece of carpet. Let me go to the other side so there's better light. I hand cut every single piece of carpet. I did all of it. Like everything you see here, I did. This dashboard, if you look at my Impossible dashboard restoration video, that is the actual dashboard. It still looks great a couple of years later. I've got my cool little Rennch logo that one of my podcast listeners made out of copper. Shout out to Mateo. The interior I think looks great. I got this stuff from TRE Motorsports long before we were working together on this build that I'm doing now. The mats are from Carbone, who's going to help me with this new build as well. They make, I think, they're doing the coolest, most innovative stuff, I think, in the Porsche community. The seats are BF Torino, Torino. They're from Italy. Beautifully made. I think these are the Nürburgring seats. I've got a half roll bar in the back. I hand cut. I got one big roll of carpet. I hand cut and bound. I bought a sewing machine and cut and bound every piece of carpeting in this car. Installed the headliner myself. This is a Scosche dash cam, which actually works amazingly well for like point of view videos as you're driving as well. So I highly recommend this Scosche dash cam. It just wraps down. I've tried to modernize things a little bit. I've got kind of a plug here with dual 12 volt USB under there. And then this little button right here, it's hard to see in the dark. See if I can get this to move. Yeah, see that button? That's for the air conditioning. So you push that AC. When it glows blue, the AC is on, which is awesome. This steering wheel is from MPI, or Max Pappas Industries. Max saw me at a Pelican gathering, fell in love with the car. Max is a multiple-time Indianapolis racer, champion racer. And he said, you have to use one of our wheels in your car. And he gave me this wheel on the spot. I put it in right on the spot. And I have to tell you, I have a Sparco wheel. I've got, of course, the Momo Prototipo. This thing feels so much better than those wheels. And I never knew how much of a difference it makes. It's a little bigger. It's a little bit bigger, like maybe 375 millimeters versus 350 or 360 or something. I can't tell you how much better it feels in the mountains when you have a little bit more leverage. It's really, really good. I've got a Rennline cell phone mount right there, and that's magnetic. So I always have kind of a magnet. I often will use cards, like metal cards from a powder coater. And you can get these sort of sample cards. So that's it, interior-wise. No, actually, I forgot one major thing. There's my cup holder, which is a row of duct tape. But here's the deal. This has a fully hidden stereo system in it. Close looks. These are hand-cut holes in the door panels. And I hand-punched all those. And then under this seat, I've got a Marine amp from Kenwood. It is a Kenwood Bluetooth Marine amp. It is a 4-channel amp. There's a flat subwoofer under the seat. And then in the doors, I have a set of Focal separates. And then the controller is right here. So I've got the little controller for the Bluetooth, volume up, volume down, source switch, fast forward, that kind of thing. And then for the sub, there's a little hidden controller here. This is that little Kenwood flat sub. So that's pretty rad. And it sounds spectacular. I'm gonna pop the back here so you guys can check out the engine. The engine is a 3.6 from a Porsche 993, a 1995 993. So this engine's been very upgraded from its tiny little 2-liter original engine. And this is bone stock. I did build this sport exhaust. This is pretty much a stock engine. I've got an air filter on it in there. And I just built this thing for reliability. But, 300 horsepower. The engine is the transmission is a 1972 It's got a 731 ring and pinion, so it's got a much higher, torqueier first gear. In fact, with this engine, it's almost unusable how torquey this engine is. So if I autocross it, I often have to really short shift it to get to second gear really quickly. And so, on with the creme de la creme. The wheels. The wheels are 9 and 11 by 15, and they're made by Akimoto. They're a 3-piece. And when I originally decided to make them, or get them, I wanted to paint them like Porsche originally did their wheels. When Porsche originally did their RSR wheels, they dipped them. They would dip them in these little vats, and the paint would go up just high enough to make the RSR finish, which is like, you know, it's dark. Let's see, get that thing turned up. It's like dark, there we go, dark inside, and then the pedals are unpainted. And I had these wheels Type 3 anodized, that's why they're that color gray. Super hard, and it looks awesome, I think. That's probably one of the other questions I get all the time, is like, how'd you do your wheels? But I took the centers out, and I got this little tin, and I was submerging, in fact, I'll put a picture up so you can see what I did. But I would submerge the center of, I leveled the table, I leveled the tin, I put the center of the wheel inside the tin, and then I used a ketchup squirt bottle. I wonder if I have that around here somewhere. I might have it. I used a old school ketchup squirt bottle to fill the paint, something like this. So I basically had paint in this, and I squirted the paint into the tin to rise it just enough to get the paint into the inset, but not to the pedals, you know? And I needed it to be level. The problem was the paint wasn't level, and that was because of surface tension. Now, if you don't know what surface tension is, it's the same thing that when you fill a glass of water a little higher than the glass, that it doesn't spill out. It's like the water's over the top of the glass. That's surface tension. And I was reminded as I was doing this, I couldn't get the paint to level because the surface tension was too much. So I needed some way to break the surface tension of the wheels, or of the paint rather, on the wheels. And so I thought about, I used to be a downhill mountain bike racer, downhill and dual slalom. I was doing a race in Whiteface, New York, like Lake Placid area. And they had an Olympic training center there. And they were showing these ski jumpers that, you know, the ones that do like triple backflips and stuff like that. Well, they were jumping into a swimming pool. And they had these kind of rollers that they would come down on. They'd do like 3 backflips and they'd land in the pool. Well, the reason why they weren't doing like massive belly flops and like hurting themselves when they hit the ground or hit the water is that they were shooting air bubbles at the water to break the surface tension. So they would hit the water and sink right down instead of smacking it. So I knew I needed something to break the surface tension. And I thought, what do I have around the house that could potentially vibrate? Well, the answer was in my then girlfriend's bedside table in the form of a vibrating dildo, which I put inside some plastic wrap, duct taped to the side of the tin, submerged my center, turned it on, and now the paint was perfectly level. Squirted the paint in, leveled it perfectly, ×4, boom, you got yourself some perfectly painted RSR wheels. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is how I use a vibrating dildo to paint my wheels. I hope you guys all have a wonderful Christmas. I gotta tell you, despite this year being really a shit sandwich for most of us, have really enjoyed getting to know you guys and really getting to work on this car and having so much fun learning myself as I go here and taking you guys along for the ride. So I hope you've enjoyed the tour of the Gray Ghost. I hope you guys can get out and drive a little bit if it's not too snowy where you are. And I will see you in the next video. Ho, ho, ho.